Michael, can we do it? Should we do it?
Dun, 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 dun.
There it is. Welcome back to Walk-Ins Welcome. Another podcast dropped on a Wednesday. As always, we're here to help you grow your clinics. We want to make sure that you're getting more patients, repeat visits, better care, and scale. So what happened? First of all, hey, man.
Hello.
Hey, typically it would be, I've already said this because like an hour ago we were cutting another podcast, but here we are living the dream for round two. But I wanted to bring this to our own podcast. First of all, we've had a litany of interviews. It's been good. It's been real good.
Yeah,
Like,
we actually have more interviews coming
Yeah.
from urgent care owners.
That's right.
Which we're excited about that because they're kind of hard to get on, but we're excited they're actually coming. But I say all that, some of this information was born out of that conversation.
It was. So we're going to have an upcoming guest. You've heard us talk about one specific urgent care over and over again. It was a startup urgent care out of Texas. I'm not going to get into the details there. But one of the pieces of conversation that we were having is he said, hey, Nick, we're getting bombarded with requests for sponsorships, with requests for charity giving, with requests for you name it, like advertising, all these
I'm a
different
business
things.
that has
Yeah.
an easy door to walk into.
That's it.
And I feel like I'm obligated to say yes to these things. Yeah.
And essentially, I said, man, I know exactly how you feel.
Because
I do.
I think it's almost worse in our space because our stuff doesn't seem hard to people.
Right.
Like, oh, I need a website. That shouldn't be hard for you.
Right. Well, several years ago, like several employees ago, several everythings ago, I came up with this framework, and he asked, like, how do you say yes and no to things? And I said, well, actually, it's not that hard for me.
By the way, I have a formula.
I do have a formula, and it's called Can We, Should We? And I started off the podcast by saying, can we do it and should we do it? Now, I'm going to drop a link to this file because I created a complete standard operating procedure, an SOP for our company, and I gave it to Jace. I'm just going to call it Jace. So I gave it to Jace and like remove our information, plug your own information in there. And I wanted to talk about this framework because Michael, you have a daughter.
Yep.
I've got 3 boys. And what I've learned is there is an incredible amount of freedom inside of a set of rules, what we call the guardrails.
Yeah, like there's freedom in the box.
Fun, quick story. So Connor is brilliant. He's my oldest. He doesn't appear like that on paper. I've seen his grades, but he is brilliant. He's super smart. And I remember when he was about 2 or 3 years old, he knew 2 things. He knew he couldn't go into the street, and he knew he couldn't throw rocks in the yard.
This is such a good story.
He knew he couldn't go in the street, and he knew he couldn't throw rocks in the yard. So he looked at me, he picked up a rock, he looked at the yard, he looked at the street, he grabbed the rock, he walked over to the street, and he threw the rock in the street. Because he knew when he throws it in the yard, I'm going to make him go get it and get it out of the yard.
Yeah.
Well, I can't go in the street, and I just threw a rock out there. What you going to do? Right? So there's always going to be, no matter what guardrails you use, there's going to be a Connor who's going to find a way to poke a hole in it.
Yep.
So it's just a standard operating procedure. They need to be fluid. But I wanted to talk about it. So it's super simple. Michael, there is a place that is guaranteeing that they can get us 18 to 20 calls a month with urgent care clinics that want to do business with us. What's the framework?
What's the framework? Can we, should we?
That's it. Like, can we do it and should we do it?
Yeah.
Right? So think about it from your clinic. Somebody walks through the door and they have radio advertising on a radio station that broadcasts to the entire city of Milwaukee, and you need to rank or you need to be found in a 3 to 5 mile radius. Can you do it? Probably have the budget to do that. It's going to be okay. You could probably do that. Should you do it? 95% of that audience is not going to be your customer.
Yeah.
So should you? I don't know. You got to think about that stuff. So when I say a can we, should we framework, can we and should we sponsor the Christmas tree lighting at the town hall meeting? I'm making crap up, right?
Or like I think the most classic thing, do you want to sponsor a banner on a baseball field at your local school or whatever?
Right.
And can we, and honestly, if you're in urgent care, maybe so, because that's a very local community thing. That's a very should we situation, in my opinion. But I bet it's real, though, because I think, like you were saying, as a business owner, like just business in general, especially one that appears to have success, right? And it's easy access, like I can walk right in. You're going to have everybody saying, can you give me $1? Can I have $1? Can I have a, and,
Yeah.
and it's just this constant thing. And if you say yes to everything, you can't say yes to things you actually want.
That's right. I always say protect your yes.
Yeah,
right?
because a no is a whole lot more powerful than a yes.
It is.
And
And you want your yes to count.
yeah, and saying yes to one thing is saying no to something else.
That's right.
And people forget that really fast.
Well, it's easy to go the should we do it, but what about the can we do it? So Groupon walks into your clinic and says, hey, y'all are offering weight loss. Can we do buy one, get one free? Can you do it? Probably not. There's you got to make money. That's not a good idea.
I kind of forgot about Groupon, to be
I
honest.
know, it's just an
but
example.
I distinctly remember Groupon when it came out and there was an issue. It was actually pilot related.
No.
They had the guy was a instructor and he was doing not free, but flight lessons through Groupon. And it was basically like, instead of $150 an hour, it's like $25. He forgot to put a limiter on it.
Oop.
So he had like 500 people buy the Groupon.
That cost him a fortune.
Yeah, he had to, shut them down basically. Yeah. But it's like that mindset of like those guardrails. Those are real things, and I think because we have a lot of situations here where we could do a lot of things for a lot of people, but boy, it will wreck our resources and make chaos.
Well, I mean, we tend to do philanthropy around special needs because I have a special needs child, so it's close to me, right? Mm-hmm. And there's oftentimes, like, I'm thinking, should we do it? Yeah. Can we do it? Probably not a good idea. We're growing in this area. Our team is at capacity in some spaces. I'm not going to be able to do the best work that I could do for them. And honestly, my team's going to resent it a little bit because just because I'm passionate about it doesn't make them passionate about it. And they have to feed their families, and they're not getting a commission on something that isn't producing revenue for the company.
Yeah,
right?
and like there's a balance because like for an urgent care, you got to treat that patient. And if you're caught up in something like one of the providers can't show up on time because of something you sponsored that they had to go to.
That's right.
Like there's a very interesting line there.
Yeah.
And you just have to think about it.
Well, so I wanted to go through this decision framework a little bit. And Michael, I know that you haven't fully read everything about this because basically I just made it. But it was based on that conversation because I know.
It's like I'm voting on a new law that I'm about to say yes to, but I haven't actually read it.
but I know that you know the framework.
Yeah, I've experienced it.
Everybody in this office knows the framework. It's not like it's so obvious, the framework, because we're so ingrained into our mission, vision, and values. Like everybody can spit out our core values. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows our vision. Everybody knows what we're trying to accomplish in the urgent care space for our urgent cares. So these guardrails are already ingrained in our team. So then they just say, can we do it and should we do it? And it makes it super simple for them to make decisions on all different kinds of things.
Yeah.
So here's the framework. I'm going to read it. I apologize. I don't always like to read on air like this, but I want to do it. So can we is the capacity check. Determine if you have the internal resources, time, and staff to support or sponsor without detracting from your core client commitments, right? So budget, feasibility. Can you afford it, right? Is this a part of your marketing budget or is this extra? Timing and logistics. Is this something that is going to throw you off of your schedule in a deep way that's going to have a profound negative impact on there? Should we? Is it aligned with your mission, vision, and values, right? Is it on mission for what you're trying to accomplish at your urgent care? Is it mutually beneficial? Is it win-win? Like it should check both of those boxes. And even for the philanthropies, Michael, that you and I do, that we do as a company, I feel good about it. So it is checking a box for me. Like it's giving me some purpose outside of just making an income and just doing business in a space. So for me, sometimes philanthropy is checking a box. I feel good about it. I feel like I'm making an impact for my son's behalf for his future. And then does it align with the values of your company? Ours is win-win partnerships, exceptional client experiences, culture trumps everything, embrace ownership, right? So here's a process. The steps to take to determine this, because not everybody on your team is going to be able to spat this out. Michael, the first one is just simply request submission in the initial screening of what's being asked of you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like just an internal review to ensure the request can we situation. Yeah.
Especially where dollars are involved.
Well, and I would even say too, like, because you've done this quite a few times where you bring it to the team where you're like, based on your mindset, I want to do this, but I have to involve a lot of my team members to make it happen. So you'll have a can we, should we situation. Sometimes that even happens with a current client where something may have changed or something unintentional, or we've had clients where they had a situation come up and we're trying to be good to them, good, good stewards to them, and then it becomes a can we, should we situation all the time. But like, it is good to have that feedback from the team involved that's going to be working on whatever you may be saying yes to. Because the reality of it is, like you said, you can quickly create resentment. And when you create resentment, it doesn't matter how awesome of a situation it is. The people involved are like, why are we doing this again?
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I had that question the other day on something that we started with a can we, should we, that ended with a probably not a good idea anymore.
Yeah, and I think there's some truth to that too around philanthropy stuff. There should be an end date with any philanthropy.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's a negative around the nonprofit you may be helping. It's more of they always need help. But at some point or another, you have to say, okay, I've spent my time where I want to spend, and I need to move on. Just because at the end of the day, if you keep donating your help and time, you can't find another spot to go donate to, or you just run out of time. Because we always talk about how you got to take care of yourself first. Because if you don't, you can't help take care of other people.
Absolutely. Right. So this is the simplest thing I can tell you. Just structure that review process. This is it. When you ask the question, can we do it and should we do it? If either one of those fails, you don't move forward. Mm-hmm. That's the guardrail. Like, that's the ultimate guardrail, right? If you know all of this stuff about your company and you've set the rules in place, then if it fails either one of those, then boom, you're done. Like, it's just out.
And then if you try to say, well, I have to make an exception, 9 times out of 10, you made the exception and it bit you later.
I'd say 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
For me, it's been a 100% failure rate.
Yeah, I mean, but it's real because the best part is when you create these guardrails, you're doing it in a non-emergency way, so you get to think about it.
That's right.
And you're not having a reaction to it. You're being proactive to it, which means you're going to be more logical about what you're putting down on paper, which then prevent, because there's a lot of things, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this too, where you want to help somebody, but it came so quickly you can't really process it the way you want to, and then you feel this obligation all of a sudden come on, and emotion kicks in. And when emotion kicks in, that's when the logic kind of falls away, and that's where the guardrails bring you right back. It keeps the emotion in check.
That's right.
So
no, that's really good. It's funny that you say when you put it down on paper, because that comes into the decision and the documentation. One of the things that I failed miserably at when we first started doing this, because you do it from a place, typically if it's philanthropy, you do it from a good place.
yeah,
Even if it's coming from, like, I'm trying to sponsor something, or I want to buy an advertising, or you want to do business with Patient Care Marketing Pros, or you name it. Like, it starts at a good place. You have the need, you have the want. It's a can and a should.
good intentions.
But you didn't put down, or nobody agreed on a scope.
Yeah.
Right. And you didn't write it down. And therefore there's this just indefinites of like it ongoing.
Yeah. And then it
right?
becomes, or we've seen ourselves internally where, hey, we're going to do you a favor. And doing a favor is like the most awful phrasing type of thing ever, because it becomes like I don't want to do this. I'm just going to do it for you, but I don't really want to do it. And then when you get into that spot, all of a sudden the good thing goes bad. Super fast.
I remember one time when I worked in radio, this guy, our radio host, he was friends with a shop. I was selling radio advertising at the time, and there was a shop in Pelham. You probably know it as Off-Road Motorsports.
Yeah. I've been in there before.
That guy. But I walked in there because Jim, who was the show host, said, hey, you need to go talk to him. He's going to buy advertising from me. And I walked in there, and I talked to him. And he goes, yeah, I lost a bet, so just draw up the paperwork. And I was like, yeah, I don't know that this is going to be, like, you shouldn't, this isn't right. Like, this doesn't feel right. And
I'd be like, what kind of bet?
I know. But at the same time, like, here's the deal. This was my commission, my work. I had to go into this, and he already was at a position of,
I don't want this.
I don't want this, right?
Which is just that's a lose-lose situation, because you don't want to service somebody that's being forced to work with you,
right?
And then they don't want to work with you at all because they're being forced. And
that's right.
And whenever you're forcing people to do something they just don't want to do, it never works. It never works out.
Yeah. So making sure that, like, both sides of the party are on the same page about the scope of work, all of that,
expectations,
all of that. which brings me to number 4, which is that post-engagement review. And that's just evaluating the outcomes of what you did.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we do a lot here with clients where we're evaluating how things are going and like the results and so forth. But yeah, at the end of the day, it also is that in this situation, because generally speaking, in philanthropy stuff, like we said, there's an end point to it. And evaluating what happens is important because it doesn't make sense to revisit it later
Right.
or to keep it going. It's like, hey, let's do another engagement of this because it was really good for both sides. So that is good there because I think people quickly forget, like, okay, we're done. We'll see y'all see you next year or we'll talk next year. And then you didn't really say, was that good for us?
Yeah.
And then it's not just from like a pure like dollar standpoint, but it's also like, hey team, did you enjoy working on this?
Right.
What were things that we could have made better? Because I think we could do that for almost in our philanthropy stuff where what could we have made this better process for everybody?
Right.
Or what more guardrails should we have put up?
So we've talked an awful lot about philanthropy, but taking this exact same checklist and talk about like maybe you're looking at a software
Yeah.
for your clinic that you want
with
to bring
sparkly
on.
buttons.
Yeah, I love sparkly buttons. I will push them all. I'm the guy who buys the car and makes sure that everything has the button. Like I don't want any blank spots. You know what I'm talking about? Give me the buttons, baby.
The poverty buttons.
That's it. I don't want the poverty button. Nah, man, I will install something. I will draw a picture of it so I can push
Then
it.
your next car needs to be a push button start that sparkles when you get in the car.
That's hot.
It
man.
like makes a little
I
chime.
know. I need the sounds. We were talking about that on mail earlier too. But thinking about a software, thinking about going and sponsoring some local. I almost said newspaper. I said newspaper. Some local
That's
magazine. Like here we have Shelby Living, that kind of stuff. right?
Or you've been hit up to be a vendor at an event,
Right.
Or whatever.
Sponsor the water bottles at a field day at a school.
Yeah,
Which is a good thing, by the way, but it has to be the right thing.
Yeah, it's not right for everybody.
That's right.
And that's even where if you want to go to, like we used to do job fairs to get intern stuff, and we realized after like the second one, like this doesn't really make sense for us.
We can, but we shouldn't.
Yeah, but we shouldn't. And then and then because just like anything else, like we've talked at different universities and so forth, and the once you do it one time, you're now on this list, and they'll keep coming back. And it can either be a good or bad thing, but you have to just say, is it worth my time each and every time?
I mean, I can answer that for you.
Yeah, right?
No. But that doesn't mean I'm not willing to do it.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I'm not willing to do it. So,
Can we, should we, right?
so let's do this evaluation checklist. We'll do a quick repeat and then we'll move on. All right. So can we? Do we have the resources and capacity to fulfill the request? Does it fit into our current budget? Is the timing feasible? Right? Should we? Does it align with our mission and values? Is there a clear mutual benefit, like win-win partnership capability on both parties? And will this represent our brand positively? I think those are really good litmus tests for your clinic to decide whether or not you should and could move forward with somebody, especially when you are bombarded with the amount of people like me, sorry, and I'll throw myself under the bus here, but people that want to do business with you and can actually add real value, but maybe just like it's not the right time, it's not the right fit, or you already have it in place.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
Well, and this makes me think about the scorecard we would do on discovery calls.
Absolutely.
Should we do business with you? And it's kind of the same format, right? Like if you're checking off yeses, there's some value behind, because I do think like it's the timing feasible, and they're like yes, and because I bet there's some yes and no's in there where it's like yes, but, and then you follow something, and I'm more leaning toward the idea like if you're saying but a bunch of times, then you probably need to be saying no.
Well, I think the guardrails are in place for you to say no more than you say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that should be the mindset.
Yeah. Say yes to the right things. Protect your yes. Make sure that it's the right one. And I love the way you just laid that up. Is like if you're saying yeah, but like or there's just too many questions in there, you don't have enough information, and the can we should we kicks it out.
Yeah.
Period. So I know this hasn't been a very long episode, but we wanted it to be a very practical episode for you. I did put actually a form together, and again, we can drop this in the show notes. There's a form that
Should I make it like a real form?
you can make it a real form on the website. Right now, it's just like it's there to serve. But you can take this and like, let's just say that somebody walks into your office. Man, the best thing you can do is just put a pause on everything and say, let me run my form. and this will kick everything out for you. Like
I
this,
could score it real quickly.
yeah, this is a decision. We'll do it real quick. Like we got time. Do
No,
it. There's
I like-
decision framework here for this.
Yeah, like in my mind. Well, I mean, because at the end of the day, when you have a not sure, that should be a default. Sorry.
Well, you can see where some of this came from too, Michael. Look at this. Like it's not even do we have available team members or resources to support the request? Right. So yes, no, not sure. But if yes, who's going to do it?
Yeah,
You know, it's not
makes you think about it.
Yeah, because now you're taking this, especially as an owner. Y'all owners, look at me right here in the camera. Look at me in the eyes. Okay,
The best TikTok.
I know you're going to hand it off to somebody. I'm going to hand it off to somebody.
We've seen it all the time.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
All right. That's part of being the owner, right? You're gonna hand it off. So when you hand it off, it's so funny. Our now biggest client. Such a good. I'm not gonna go to the details
Yeah,
of the
don't go into
client,
details on that,
but
but-
it's a multi-location. We're having a fun time working with them. Great owner. Love him because I speak his language. He made a decision in like 5 seconds and then handed all of it off to his team, and they just look like they were whiplash. Great team.
Yeah, like
but
when,
they were
when
just
we get
like,
on the
oh
call,
God.
it was one of those when we get on the call with, and they're like, "So we only know this much." Well, great, we only know this much. All right, let's talk. Okay, yeah, send that, and okay, yeah, like basically, it was,
I even remember telling him, I was like, y'all don't have to sign anything today. Because he made the decision so fast.
yeah.
I was like, I'm going to let y'all have plenty of time to go through the conversation that we
and they
had.
still move,
And they still move forward. I think that's why.
Well, they moved pretty quick, but it was probably also the doctor saying, "Have we started yet?"
Yeah. Boy, we can talk about when they're ready, right?
Yeah.
Luck is where opportunity and preparedness meet, right? We were ready and the opportunity showed up.
It did.
Anyway, so just going back to this, the budget, it's just the timing and operational fit, all of these different things that we've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
This just allows you to check the box. Yes, no, not sure, specific details. Like there's accountability in this form. When you give your team the framework, they can make good decisions on your behalf. You don't have to be the yes, no for every little thing. Just give them guardrails. My kids make really good decisions when they stay within the framework, when they stay in the rules that we've set for the house. They make great decisions. It's when they break those rules that it's just become a problem. And that's what we're learning.
And I think we learn here too internally. Rules matter, but crystal clear rules matter more because when we're all on the same page and we all agree to it, it's a whole lot easier to say no or sorry, we're just not doing that.
To be unclear is to be unkind.
Yeah, that's a real thing,
Yeah.
and we've all experienced it, whether we like it or not. Because I've had plenty of situations. I thought I was clear. Well, the returning party said no.
Yep. In fact, was not clear at all. So, any other standouts on this before we leave, Michael?
No, I'm just thinking through like because how I made the scorecard for our thing that scores stuff. I could reverse score this where it starts at 100, and every time you say no, it knocks off 10 points, and not sure knocks off 5 points. And then if you get below an 80, it just says sorry.
This is not
There's no way this will work.
not a good fit or not a good time.
Yeah.
Or sorry, bro, you're out of money.
You're out of money. You're out of money and time.
Anyway, look, we want this to be a good resource for you. We'll drop a link to it. All you have to do, because it's a Google Doc, you just go up into File and put Make a Copy, and it'll go right into your own Google Drive, and you can have a copy, and you can do whatever you want with it. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I created it for you, so I hope you use it. With that, Michael, let's go.
All right. We'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.